Hi, my name is Jonas, and I work as what we, at least at SimpleSite, call a growth hacker, which in our company is you could say, very data-driven position. My background is in physics, which is probably again reflected in what I'm going to say today. So I'd like to talk a little bit today about how we how we sort of view growth hacking, how we practice it from day to day. And then I brought two, actually just like Martin, two examples to show you again how we apply this. So first off, just a very brief rundown of SimpleSite. We're a website builder, typically for small to medium businesses and individuals. And we're around 11 years old and currently have something like 80,000 paying customers or subscribers. And we generate something like 400,000 new users every month. So, I mean, somewhat a large amount of traffic each month. Okay, so this is what I'll run through today, our approach to growth hacking and just two examples in each direction and then a conclusion. Okay, so first off, how do we view growth hacking and what are sort of the requirements for actually practicing the way we do? First off, as I think has been mentioned quite a few times, and you probably already know this, it's really critical that if you at least do this very data-driven thing, you really need volume. So for example, we do loads and loads of A/B tests, typically a couple a week, ranging from big implementations to just small tweaks. And just to put it in perspective, if you let's say you have 10 customers a day and you do an A/B test, you pour 5 customers down each track, it'll basically take you forever to measure anything of statistical significance. Whereas if you have 10,000 customers, of course you pour 5,000 customers down each track, it'll basically allow you to measure a improvement in your product or sign-up process or whatever of 10% in a few days, or actually in one day, depending on, again, your requirements for significance. So this volume thing, I mean, it's really critical. And if you don't have sufficient volume, what I'm going to say today is, I mean, somewhat not that relevant. Then another thing that's really critical is that you're keenly aware of what sort of are your key performance indicators and basically what are your metrics for measuring. So if you do A/B tests, for us historically we've been measuring on new paying customers. That's very logical. But you could also be measuring on user activity, how good you are retaining users, logins, I suppose even Facebook likes. It doesn't really matter as long as you're really sure that it actually couples tightly to sort of the growth of your business. So that's also really critical. And then the final and third thing here is that as I think, I can't remember, I think it was Christos or Ronja or both said it, it really needs to be sort of a focus across your organization. So I think we're around something like 50 employees. And basically when Kathrine from our support department comes to me and suggests that obviously we need to improve our login feature or whatever, let's use that as an example. My first question to her would be, well, basically what you're suggesting, can we actually measure the improvement from that? And if that's not the case, then you really need to go back to the drawing board and refactor so that you're actually able to measure the effect of what you're doing. And that basically drives everything in our company. And so basically the central question is, whatever you're doing, whatever new initiative you're taking, can you actually measure the difference from it or the improvement? Okay, so how do we use this from day to day? Well, first off, as I said, we run loads and loads of A/B experiments, typically 3, 4, 5, 6 a week or something like that. And they typically fall into 2 categories. One is that, as we've seen a couple of examples of today, whenever we do a new implementation or a new product feature or something, we always A/B test it just to make sure that we don't waste more effort actually pouring focus and man hours into something that doesn't work. And the other category is that whenever we do, you could call it refactorings to the product. You change a headline or you add an extra field to an input field to a checkout form as a legal requirement or whatever. You actually A/B test that as well. And that's, I'm going to get back to it, but that's actually really critical. Basically just to make sure that you don't actually hurt or worsen the product. Then we do loads and loads and loads of digging around in the existing data, so using Google Analytics or Mixpan has been mentioned a couple of times, and also our own business database, just to figure out what's going on. And if I use the example from before, if we look at this login screen, my first task could be, when we want to improve this, my first task could be actually going into Google Analytics and figuring out how much traffic arrives at this login screen. Is it none? Of course, we shouldn't actually spend any hours improving this. And if our success rate at actually logging users in is 99%, then there's very little room for improvement as well. So that's sort of, I mean, we really try to use existing data as well to inform focus areas basically across the organization, both strategic decisions and product decisions. And then finally, we try to build it really iteratively. So what that basically means is that, again, using the parallel from before, our login thing, basically always try to do an MVP, right? Always do the very, very, very most, if you have an idea, always do the very most basic thing you can come up with and implement it, A/B it, and then build from there. Learn whatever you can from your first implementation. It was extremely poor, then either trash it or go back to the drawing board, analyze why didn't it work, didn't people actually interact with it, didn't people see it, whatever. And then improve on that, and build in layers. Okay, so the first example I've brought here is our decision to actually move our product into or make it a freemium product. Currently, we have a business model where you basically sign up for a trial period, 30 days, and when your trial is about to expire, we send you a mail, and we convert quite a few users for actually sending that mail. On the other hand, we've already converted quite a few users into paying customers already at this point by sending them a domain or upselling them on extra space or whatever, right? So, our question was, it's really actually difficult to going back if you made your product freemium. You'll probably make a lot of users unhappy. So our worry was, how much would we lose, not from the ones we actually convert at day 30, we know we'll probably lose them. But how many paying customers will we lose of the rest? And what we did was we actually did an extremely basic MVP of this. Basically just selecting a few markets, I think mainly English-speaking ones, selecting a few markets, just going into our product, removing every mention of time limitation, removing, of course, the mail we sent at day 30, and then doing an A/B test for a few months. And basically what we saw that we lost just 10%. And that actually actually made us really, really confident that now we're actually able to completely switch business model. We know that we'll only lose these 10%. And this is something we're very confident that we can actually regain. So, I mean, this is a huge business decision, making the entire product freemium, because our growth is self-financed. So, again, I mean, yeah, this is an example of a really strategic decision informed by just an A/B test and digging around in our own data. The other example I've brought is sort of falls into the other category I mentioned. Basically, this is a portion of our sign-up flow, and we're a website builder. So the first thing people start out by doing is selecting a design for the website, then choosing a username, and finally we ask them a question. What are you going to use your website for? Is it for personal use? Is it for your business, perhaps your gardening business or something? Or is it for something completely else? So for several reasons, we wanted to move this screen to the very beginning of this flow, basically just to see the drop-off rates for these different segments. And okay, so this is the screen we're talking about, basically just a very, very basic welcome message and then a question. Obviously, you could probably improve on this. So our expectation was that from this was probably a very poor landing screen. So we'd probably lose quite a few customers or sign-ups from this. But just to be sure and just to know how many users we actually lose, we actually did an A/B test on it. And again, we have something like 400,000 signups in a month, so we could measure this in days, we'd probably expect. So actually, we won 12% from this. which is, I mean, it's really nice. It's 48,000 customers in a month, but it's also really, really important because the thing is, if we actually hadn't done the test, we'd probably be partial. We thought it was bad, this new implementation. We'd probably be partial to actually revert the change once we were done testing, and then we'd actually be missing out on 12%. So the takeaway here is, if you actually have the volume and the manpower to doing these tests, make sure that you do them. Basically, it was, I think, a 15-minute set of this. Just make sure that you do these tests, because 12%, I mean, it's not a lot, but it adds up, right? So just to give you an idea of how systematically we're actually working with this, I think this is all experiments we've done for the past year. And it's impossible to count. I think there's 100 of them. I tried to mark with red the ones that actually won out. And I'll also put arrows on them just to. So as you can see, it's approximately 1 in 8. So I think Krista said that it's approximately 1 in 10 experiment that actually works out. That's not even the case for us. It's 1 in 16 or something. But the thing is, I mean, obviously we've learned from all of these. All of these we thought were either really good ideas, or we wanted to make sure that we actually didn't hurt our product, or wanted to test out some refactoring we did. I mean, also the negative ones. But this is, I mean, of these 100 tests, it's approximately 50-50 between really good ideas, really nice product, new features to our product, and then complete just refactorings like the one I just showed you. And yeah, by the way, this is the questionnaire I just showed you, and this is just to give you an idea, this is the freemium thing. But the thing is, as I said, it's 50-50 across all of the board. But the thing is, among these 8 winners, it's also 50-50. So the takeaway here is that, I mean, you really need to work really hard, really systematic on this if you actually have the traffic, because it's actually resources. So, I mean, all of these are, I think the biggest one is probably something like 50%, right? Sorry, 15%, right? But if you add them up, it's way over, it's way over 60% in a year, and that's a lot. So, I mean, in conclusion, just to, if I can leave you with anything, it's really make sure that you utilize your traffic if you have it, and if you have the manpower, make sure that you do not only the tests on huge new features or business models, but also on these tiny tweaks, because it's, I mean, yeah, that's all. That's it. Thanks.